graphic nature of this program, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, welcome to episode 2 of the podcast, which is still, as of yet, unnamed. Still going through. I got some pretty cool suggestions after my first episode. I'll find something. We'll see. I don't know. Give it time. Name's not really important. It's really more about the content anyway. So I'm going to more focus on that than an actual title. I guess for now it's just the Joe Image Podcast, which is a really shitty and uncreative name. Not very, not a lot of effort put into a name like that. But anyway, let's get started with today's episode. I actually don't have any notes. I'm just going to basically, this will just be about Nerdtacular, I believe. If anything else comes into my mind, I shall discuss it, but I'm not really, not really looking to discuss anything else, just Nerdtacular. I talked a little bit about it in my first episode, trying to talk a little bit more about it today. A lot of people asked me some questions about, in the first episode I mentioned that I met Randy Jordan, who works at Blizzard. I met Chris Metzen, also works for Blizzard. People asked me what we talked about. Can I give any? Did I get any insider information? A lot of people asked me too, or a few people. But the only insider information at the time there was to even be told about would have been the expansion Legion for World of Warcraft, which was announced a few days after Nerdtacular. So everyone that was interested in that, knows about it already anyway. So really, there was not that there was any insider info anyway, but that would have been a nice little nugget of info to get. However, it was pretty obvious they weren't going to be able to tell us anything. But anyway, let me start from the beginning. First of all, Nerdtacular, as I said on my first episode, which I will link in the description down below, it is almost like Comic-Con. However, it is specific to one company known as Frog Pants Studios out of Salt Lake City, Utah. So if you go to frogpants.com, you will find them. They are headed by a very, very great dude, Scott Johnson, who is just an awesome guy, sweetheart of a guy, super generous, and I don't even know the word, just a saint. The guy's a freaking saint. Got a great family, great wife, awesome kids. The whole family is really cool. I've been honored to meet the whole family. Last year was my first Nerdtacular. This year was my second. I met them both times. Kim Johnson, Scott's wife, is awesome. Super accommodating. If you need anything, she takes care of everything. She very much reminds me of my girlfriend Angela. And actually, my girlfriend and I have talked about this. But Scott does so much that he almost has a million things going on at all times. And he does podcasts, and he does Let's Plays on Saturdays for NVIDIA, and he does streaming, his own private streaming. And he does webcomics. He does probably 12 or 13 podcasts, which is the majority of Frog Pants Studios, majority of their content. So, it almost reminds me of myself and my girlfriend, compared to him and his wife, in the sense that he has so much going on, especially at Nerdtacular, that she kind of, it almost seems like you could see she kind of keeps him sane in a way. Like, she tells him, all right, we need to do this now. Like, you need to relax, and we need to go do this because this is happening. And, for example, we wanted a picture together, myself and my girlfriend, with him and his wife. So, I took a picture with Scott last year, I took a picture with Kim last year, but we wanted a picture together this year of the two couples. So what we did was, right after, I forget what panel it was, it may have been after the closing ceremonies, actually, at night, on Saturday night, but my girlfriend and I went up to the stage, and I know Scott, like I said, I met him last year, and he knows me. I've been on a bunch of his shows a few times. So basically, just went up to him and said, "Hey, I need to get a picture of me and my girlfriend with you and Kim." And he had a million things. He said, "Okay, no problem. Let's do it right now." And then it was almost like 20 minutes later when we actually got the picture, because he had so much going on and so many people to talk to, and there was a line for pictures of him, or pictures with him. There was a autograph line. I mean, there was just a ton of people waiting with stuff for him to sign. So finally, when it was time to do the picture and he was done with everything, he just didn't know what was going on. He almost looked like he was like frazzled. And Kim said, "Come over here right now. We're going to take this picture really quick. Then we have to go in the hallway because they're making everyone get out of the room so they can, whatever they need to do, clean up the room or whatever." So that kind of reminds me of myself and Angela, because she kind of does that for me. She's very much, and I say this all the time, she's very much the brains of the operation. I'm kind of just the guy that does like the stupid guy things, and she's very much like my sanity and the brains of the operation. So it's very it just reminds me a lot of Scott and his wife, and how that they kind of have that dynamic when there's a million things going on and he needs to get one other thing done, and she kind of tells him, "Right, let's go do this now," and things like that happen between my girlfriend and I a lot, and it seems like she kind of keeps my sanity as well, in the same way that Kim does for Scott. So I just thought that was really cool, little cool dynamic there. But anyway, I will start from the beginning. So the event itself is 2 days. However, it's a Friday and Saturday normally. So this year it was Friday and Saturday, July 30th and August 1st. So it was, actually, I'm sorry, it was, well, July 30th was a Thursday. That was the day that we actually arrived in Utah. But the event itself officially opens on Friday morning. So it was July 31st, and it ends on Saturday night, August 1st. So we actually got there on Thursday to Utah, and the check-in time is like 6 o'clock or whatever. It's when check-in opens for Nerdtacular itself. I mean, not the actual resort we stayed at. So, check-in at 6. Hey, I'm Joe. Here's my name and everything. Here's my tickets. We're good to go. We signed in. We're all set. So we get there. We get to the we go to the airport. We get to the airport. We rent a car. First thing I see is a beautiful, well, two beautiful Corvettes. One black, one red. 2015 at the rental. I forget the name of the place. Advantage Auto, I think it was, something like that. At the rental car office at the airport. So we get there. I see the two Corvettes. I go, man, these are both gorgeous. We ended up renting a Volkswagen Passat, which is very nice, but not. I mean, it's not equally as nice as the Corvette, of course. So we get the Passat. I'm looking at the Corvettes. My girlfriend's doing the paperwork. I'm looking at the Corvettes, and the guy goes to me, if you like the Corvettes, we actually have a Maserati not too far from here. It's a few spaces down. It's somebody else's. It's another company. It was like a Hertz, I think it was. And again, they were Advantage Auto, but he goes, "Oh yeah, we have a Maserati right there too." And I go, "Well, where is it?" He's like, "Oh, 6 spaces down," or whatever it was. 7 spaces down. So I walk down the little sidewalk there. I find the Maserati. I took a bunch of pictures of it that are on my Facebook, and I go back to the guy and I go, just out of curiosity, and he cuts me off right at the word curiosity, and he goes, $395 a day, sir. So I told my girlfriend, like, hey, you know what? That's a ton of money that I really don't want to spend on renting a car, but next year I believe I'm going to get the Maserati for at least 1 day, just to check it out, just to say that I drove a Maserati. So anyway, so we get in the car, we get in the Volkswagen Passat, hit the hotel. I get up to the registration desk. They say, "Hey, your room is not ready." So I go, "All right," and I knew this. I mean, we got there around 2:30ish. The itinerary says check-in time is 4 o'clock, but you're guaranteed the room to be ready by at least 6 o'clock. So that's like 2 hours of leeway for whatever, for them to clean the room or, redo the sheets or whatever they need to do. Refill the linens and the toilet paper and the towels and things like that. So I'm instantly annoyed because there's other people that got there earlier than us that check-in time is still 4 o'clock. That's the standard time. But there were other people that got there at 11:30 in the morning, and they got their rooms without a problem. So I am instantly annoyed. I just say, okay, no problem. Find my girlfriend. I say, hey, because she's parking the car. I'm out with the luggage trying to get into the room. My plan was to get into the room and then text her the room number so she could just come up. Obviously, that didn't work. But I call, I find her, I text her, I say, room's not ready, I'll meet you downstairs by where the check-in desk is for your luggage, the check-in luggage, the bellhop desk, I guess you call it. So I go down there and meet her there at the bellhop desk. She comes in, and I say, well, they told me the room's not ready, but it should be ready by at least 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. And I was like, okay, so she's like, all right, no problem, we'll go get some food or whatever. So I tell her, all right, I'm going to run to the bathroom, I'll be right back. So I go to the men's room, I come back, and she goes, okay, here's our room keys. And I'm like, how the hell what happened? She's like, oh, I just went up there and asked for the, gave them my name, asked for the room, and they said that they had a ready room for us. And I was like, hey, I was just up there 10 minutes ago, and they told me the room was not ready. And she's like, well, I don't know, they told me, no problem. So we go to the room, we're on the 7th floor, find out a bunch of other Nerdtacular people on the 7th floor, which is very, very cool. So that day, we just kind of hang out. I meet a whole bunch of new people. I see a bunch of people I already knew. I met up with Joe Gates, who does awesome jobs making flasks. He sent me a message on Twitter, I don't know, 5 or 6 months ago, and said, hey, what's your address? I'm testing something, and I want to see if it's okay. So I need someone just to use as a guinea pig. So I give him my address, and I don't know, 3-4 weeks later, a flask shows up in my mailbox with my name on it. It says Joey Image right on it. I'm actually looking at it right now. It's nice leather bound. I mean, it's beautiful. I'll put a picture of it somewhere on my Facebook if there's not one already. But the thing's beautiful. I mean, it's handmade. It's just gorgeous. Anyway, so long story short, we had dinner plans that they didn't really work out. Joe ended up going with a couple other people. We hung out. We got to talk to a lot of people, meet a lot of new people, talk to a lot of old people I already met. Basically, the first night is just for hanging out. I mean, we got our tickets, registered. We got our like goodie bags approved and whatever you call it, and our goodie bags were received, I should say. We got our name badges and all that stuff to show that we're legit, we're good, we're in the right place, and blah blah blah. So that's the first night. Second night, the second day, I should say, Friday. Live TMS, which is the morning stream. I think I missed like half of this because it was at 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's in Utah, which is mountain time. I'm in the Eastern time zone because I'm in New Jersey, so it's 2 hours ahead for me. So it's 10 o'clock there, it's 12 noon here. I guess I should have already been awake, but I don't remember what time I went to sleep the night before, the Thursday, so I think it was pretty late, actually. Maybe, if I remember correctly, I may not have gotten back to the hotel room until maybe 3:30 in the morning that day, actually. Or that night. So, the reason for that was, probably involved a lot of booze, a lot of drinking. Which I think it did, actually. Yes, oh, you know what? I forgot the whole Smoke Monster. That's what happened. Thursday night was Smoke Monster night. Smoke Monster night is basically, there was probably 40 people there, 50 people there that were just all outside on this little back patio at the restaurant smoking cigars. Not me, I don't smoke anything. So I'll drink, but I don't smoke anything anymore, so no cigars for me. I just hung out and talked. But it was great. I mean, I hung out and talked with Scott and his wife again, like I said. Tom Merritt was there, Veronica Belmont was there, Mitsula, so many people. Randy Jordan, this is what I told the Randy Jordan story on my previous episode. If you want to hear it, you're going to have to go back to that. I don't want to repeat the whole story here for those people that have already heard it. But yeah, I spoke to him. I met Steve and Alan, which are two British dudes who are just two of the nicest, coolest guys I've ever met. They're just two. Everyone that I've met, I should say every British person I've ever met has been super cool. So these guys were no different. They were awesome. We hung out a lot the whole weekend, including the last night, Saturday night. We spent a lot of time just chatting before the whole thing shut down. It was really cool. I really love those guys. They were both great. And then that was where I met Chris Metzen, which I talked a little bit about on my first episode. I didn't really go into detail. I can, but I didn't on the first episode. But people did actually ask me. I guess I will go into a little bit of detail because people did actually ask me what did Chris Metzen and I talk about. And as I said on the previous episode, I told him a lot of my complaints about World of Warcraft right now. World of Warcraft was released November 23rd, 2004. I have been playing since before that date because I was in beta. So I've probably been playing for maybe 6 months prior to that. But my account is no longer active. I closed it in February. So I told Chris this. He asked me why. We talked about stuff. I told him, basically, I don't like... I feel like with the Warlords and Draenor expansion, I feel like the game is way, way too Garrison dependent. And I really just want to go out and kill shit. Like, I mean, I haven't even, I haven't raided, first of all. I haven't gone on a raid in years because I feel like I'm so far behind in gear. I'm not adequate for raids right now. And I don't want to do, raids from 10 or 15 levels lower than what I am because I feel like I'm overpowered for those. But then I'm not sufficiently or underpowered for current endgame raids. So basically, I just grind a lot. I quest a lot. I'll do duo quests or group quests or whatever. Or I'll do dungeons and stuff. But I haven't done an actual hardcore raid in a pretty long time. And that really kind of sucks because I'm in I'm in Scott Johnson's guild. I'm in the Nerdtacular guild. It's called AIE. And we are probably the largest guild in the game. So there's always somebody willing to help when you log in. It's just, I don't know. It's just been a long time. I feel like I need to gear up before I can raid again. But not enough specific game talk. More stuff that I talked about with Chris was just we talked a lot of wrestling. Actually, he asked me about some stories and some guys that he watched growing up, and I gave him some stories. We had a really good conversation. We talked probably in total for probably about 4 hours. And the funny thing is, I was a little bit half in the bag when I met him in the first place. He was sitting at a table talking to 3 girls, and I basically just walked right over there. I sat down, and right in the middle of a conversation, and I just said, "You're Chris Metzen. I'm a big fan. My name's Joe. Pleasure to meet you." And much like Randy Jordan did earlier in the night, he said, "You're Joe Eamons the wrestler, right?" And I was amazed that he knew who I was. I told the Randy Jordan story already, so I won't repeat it, but Randy knew who I was, and I was amazed at that as well. So Chris Metzen knew who I was. He'd heard of me. He knew that I was a wrestler. He knew that I had been on a couple of Scott Johnson's podcasts. And it was very cool to me. It was a mark-out moment. I don't get starstruck a lot, but I got starstruck for that. For both of those guys, actually, Randy and Chris. And it's funny because my girlfriend thinks it's cute or funny, I guess in an ironic kind of way, that I've worked with and I've met and I know and I've been on shows with a lot of famous wrestlers. And I know CM Punk said that famous quote a couple years ago, if you're famous in wrestling, you're not famous. Or if you're only famous in wrestling, then you're not famous, which is kind of funny when you think about it because it's very, very true. But so I've worked with or I've been on shows with so many people that are famous in pro wrestling, and I don't get starstruck or mark out over them at all. Most of the time, it doesn't mean anything to me. It's just another guy that I'm working with. I mean, sure, a guy that I'm on a show with may have happened to have been in WWE or, a WWE champion, or TNA, or ECW, or WCW, but it's not, once you get in that locker room setting, you realize that they're all just people. So, when I kind of got starstruck about Chris Metzen, my girlfriend thought it was kind of funny, which I kind of understand that, because here's a guy that, in the real world, if you look at the big picture, he's not famous. He's just a guy that makes video games and writes the stories behind them. But to me, he's super famous. And to me, Randy Jordan is super famous, and Russell Brower is super famous, and Tom Chilton, and all these guys that work for Blizzard. To me, they're famous because I've been using their product for over 10 years now. So to me, they're not only famous, but they're important to more than just the gaming community. Because World of Warcraft is much more than just a gaming community. It's a very, very tight-knit social community, dare I say. But yeah, so anyway, but that was my dealings with him. Like I said, we spoke about 4 hours, took a whole bunch of pictures together, and he is sending me a free Overwatch shirt, which is very cool. Overwatch being Blizzard's next upcoming game in a new genre. Actually, it's going to be like an action kind of shooter. So I asked him for a shirt. He said, "No problem, man. Give me your address. I'll send it out to you." So I have heard from him since then, and he said he's working on it and he'll send it out ASAP. So that was really cool. What else did we talk? We talked about so much stuff. I had a World of Warcraft phone case on my phone at the time, which I asked him to sign, and he did. He signed it with silver Sharpie, but it's some kind of weird plastic where it rubbed off while it was in my pocket. Like, literally the entire signature rubbed off, so you can't even tell that there was anything there. So I don't know what the hell the deal is with that, or what kind of material it's made of or anything, but I don't know. I've got pictures with the guy. That's better than him writing his name on something anyway, I guess. So we talked about that, obviously. Talked about Warcraft, about wrestling, talked about movies and our childhoods and stuff like that. So basically that was Smoke Monster for me. I talked to and hung out with a lot of people. Metzen was the one that I spoke to the most. And I don't know, it was just really cool. He was just a super down-to-earth guy. Prior to that, there was sort of like almost like a meet and greet, I guess you could call it, with like the producers of all the Frog Pants shows and stuff like that, which included a buffet of like hors d'oeuvres, and everyone there was hanging out and meeting people and things like that. And actually, that's where I met Mark Turpin, aka Terpster. He is another guy that knew who I was, and it blew my mind because, the fact that I've been on Frog Pants shows in the past is cool to me, but the fact that Terpster knew who I was, and we have never spoken, much like the Randy Jordan story. Terpster and I have never spoken once. I mean, not on Twitter, not in guild chat in Warcraft, nowhere. We've just never spoken. I've never really had anything to say to him or didn't know what to say to him, via Twitter or anything like that. So I just never did. I listen to him on the Instance every week, the World of Warcraft podcast, so that you don't have to, every week. But, I've never actually spoken to him. So when I introduced myself as Joe, same thing. He said, "You're Joey Image, you're the wrestler guy." "Yo, Joey Image, you're the wrestler guy. I know who you are." That's my awful British accent. But yeah, he knew who I was, and it was just super cool that these dudes like knew me, and they were like, "Whoa, like you're that wrestler guy." And it almost came off as them marking out for me, which I will not ever claim that anyone has done. It's just the way it seemed to me, given the fact that they knew who I was, and we have never spoken before, so somehow they became aware of me. So I got to meet Terpster that day, at the meet and greet, and then me and a couple other guys were standing all the way on one side, one far end, because there were two of the guys that were smoking cigarettes, so they went away from where all the food was. And as we're standing there, we just happened to be talking about Chris Metzen, and this was before I met him. And who shows up and walks in but Chris Metzen? or walks out really because it was outdoors. So he walked out from, I guess, from his room or from his car. I don't know, because he still had his gear, his bags with him and everything. So as we're talking, somehow Metson's name came up, and somebody else was talking, and I turned around and I saw him walk out of the hotel with his bags, and I said, "Hey, there he is." And the guy talking goes, "Who?" And I was like, "Chris Metzen, he's right there. He must have just got here. Still got his suitcases with him." So that was kind of cool. And then that was Thursday night. So again, Friday morning, as I said earlier, was the live morning show, the morning stream, which was awesome. It's very, very cool with an interactive audience. I would love to do something like that regularly. I did a couple of panels while I was there. I did a pro wrestling panel on Friday. I did another panel on Saturday. But it would be cool to, like, maybe not every day, maybe once a week, just to do some type of live discussion panel group podcast talk thing in front of an audience and be able to interact with them. I think that would be cool. Like, I guess what I'm talking about is I guess it would be cool to be a talk show host. Now that I actually think about it, that may be what I'm referring to. So, that is live TMS. But one of the coolest parts of the entire weekend, I think, for me was actually, and I'll get into the other stuff, but just one of the coolest parts, besides the Chris Metzen Blizzard stuff, was the pro wrestling panel that I did along with Mike Iceworm and Justin Robert Young. Mike Iceworm is just he's a member of the Frog Pants community. He's a staple there. He does a lot of stuff for Scott himself. He's almost, I guess they call him the intern. And Justin Robert Young is, if you've heard those Go Home You're Drunk internet memes, Go Home Santa You're Drunk, etc., he's the guy that literally wrote the book Go Home Santa You're Drunk. And he's also got a new card game coming out called The Contender. So check that out as well. But also follow @ContenderGame on Twitter for updates. But Justin Robert Young, he's a great dude. Mike's a good dude. And we did a panel about wrestling, which I had this idea last Nerdtacular, and it was almost like a joke I kind of said in passing. I had met Tom Merritt at Nerdtacular 2014. We had talked. I got a Merritt badge. Well, we had talked a lot, but we didn't get a picture together, and I always like, when I meet people, I always like to get a picture. Just because you never know when you're going to see somebody again, or unfortunately, something terrible happens and you won't ever see them again. You just never know. So I always like to kind of document the situation, or document the event, I should say. So I met Tom at 2014. We hung out a lot. Really good guy to talk to, but we didn't get a picture. So I happened to be at the same airport as him going home after Nerdtacular last year, and I was, I don't know, 2 or 3 gates away from where he was. So say he was at gate B1, for example, I was at B5, or 4. So I was only a couple of feet down away from him at the gate at the airport. So he came by, and we finally grabbed a picture together. And we talked, and I told him, some of my favorite moments or whatever. And I was like, hey, maybe next year we can do a wrestling panel, with the wink, the winky eye and the air quotes. I really was kind of only half serious. I thought it would be awesome, of course, but I didn't think that anybody would go for it because I'm not a giant member of. I shouldn't say that. I'm a member of the Frog Pants community, but I'm not like a part of the staff or anything like that. So I'm really just, to them, I'm just a listener. So I don't want to, I didn't want to impose. So I kind of was just half kidding about that. But Tom was like, yeah, maybe we can look into that. And then I thought nothing of it, and that's it. And then a few months later, Iceworm sent me a DM on Twitter, I think, talking about it. And he had already spoken to Jury about it to see if he was interested. And I was like, hey, this is a great idea. Like, we should try to see if we can really get this going. So basically, step 1, step 2, step 3, everything happened, and it worked out, and we got the panel. So we did it on Friday. which I believe was the 31st of July at 4 p.m. or 2:30 p.m., something like that. And we did about an hour and a half. And unfortunately, the Roddy Piper death news came out, about 10 minutes before we actually went live. So, unfortunately, we actually opened with that. Not a great way to start our first live panel. Hopefully our first and not our only. I would love to do another one next year, and then 2017 and 2018 and 2019 and Wrestling 2020. But anyway, so that was like our, I don't know even know what the word is. That was our damper that we had to open the panel. Other than that, everything else went cool. We did a Q&A. A bunch of people asked me questions about, being in the locker room. Like, there were a lot of, Justin and Mike are not actually in the business. They are smart, quote unquote, smart to the business, to a point, but they haven't experienced it from the inside and been in a ring and taking bumps and blah, blah, blah. So that was where I came in, and that was my dynamic, was to match up with those guys so we could have kind of cover all bases thing. So, and there were a lot of questions that we got where people would ask Jury, like, hey, what do you think about this? And then they would ask me, as a wrestler, what do you think about this? And does it differ from, maybe what Justin thinks or what Mike thinks? So it was a really cool panel. We had a lot of fun. It's going to be, I have an upcoming DVD coming out. I did the Final 5 DVD, as you know, most of you know about. A lot of you have purchased it already, which I cannot thank you enough. But there was some stuff that I because I'm an idiot, I simply forgot to put on the DVD. There was a Q&A, there was I wanted to put an episode of one of the Scott Johnson podcasts that I was on. I just basically forgot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the stuff I forgot, plus brand new footage, and I'm going to put this all together on another DVD, just like it's still going to be called the Final 5, but it'll be like a bonus disc or something. It'll probably only be one disc, and it'll probably only be like $10. So, right now, the original 2 disc is $15, for DVD and $20 for Blu-ray. And although I've only gotten a couple of people asking for Blu-rays. So basically $15 for DVD, and then I'll do another 10 for the bonus disc, so 25 total. Or if people purchase them together, I'll do both of them for 20. Or if you want Blu-ray, I'll do both for 30. So, or actually I should say both for 30 sounds good. Anyway, blah, blah, blah. Making a short story long there. But yeah, so that footage is going to go on a DVD. I was able to get it from Todd Whitehead. Thankfully, because there were a lot of, I don't want to say errors. There were a lot of, I don't even know the right word. A lot of oddball things going on in that room. We were in the room was called Primrose B, whatever in the hell that means. So we were in that room, and there was just all day, there was technical issues and audio issues, and we had video issues, and there was just a lot of stuff going on in that room that really was not friendly to any of the panels that were happening. There was, first of all, when we first got there to start the panel, there was no internet. And what we were supposed to be doing was live streaming every panel. So we couldn't because we had no internet connection. So that sucked, to put it plainly. But again, Todd, a.k.a. Gnomewise, managed to get me the footage. He got about a half hour of it. And like I said, we went about an hour and a half. So he got the final half hour is what I have. So what I'm going to do is, I have all of it audio, but only the final half hour video. So what I'm going to do is take the audio, I will put together a video slideshow just of a bunch of still photos for the first hour, and then with the audio over it. And then once the audio and the video matches up, then basically it will just fade from the photo slideshow into the video. So it'll still look fine. You won't really be able to tell that there was anything missing, just that the fact that it's not there, it'll be a photo slideshow instead. So I'm hoping that comes out okay. I'm hoping I can figure out how to do that without really screwing stuff up to make it look awful. But that'll be on a separate disc, and that's all upcoming. So that was one of the coolest parts, actually two of the coolest parts, Chris Metzen and the wrestling panel. I also got to do another panel called Grumpy Cast, which is a podcast. I spoke about this on my first episode also. Grumpy Cast is a podcast with Daryl and Hammond, and basically they just take stuff that pissed them off and stuff that are, annoying them through the previous week, and they just get it off their chest. It's almost a very therapeutic way to kind of get rid of basically anything that's bothering them or annoying them. It's like I said, therapeutic, and it's fun. It's fun for other people to listen to. And the cool thing about the live one is that people from the audience came up and grabbed a mic, and they talked to us about their problems and stuff that bothers them and stuff that annoys them. So it was really cool to be on that panel live with Daryl and Hammond. And actually, a funny story how that came about. A few minutes before their show was supposed to go on, I was speaking to Hammond in the hallway, and he was like, "Hey, I got a quick question for you." And of course, Hammond's a great dude, so I'm like, "Yeah, sure, what's up?" So he said, "Listen, the Angry Chicken is filming / recording the same time we are, and I want to kind of run in there and yell something in their microphone and then leave. But I need someone to cover for me while I'm gone. I don't want to leave Daryl by himself." And I said, "Hey, man, I would love to." So he's like, "All right, cool. So whenever I figure I'm going to go, I'll let you know. Just sit somewhere near the front so I can see you, and I'll just let you know when to come up." So that's basically what we did. Shortly after they started, I believe, maybe 5-10 minutes after they started, Hammond said, "Hey, I gotta go. I'm gonna run to the Angry Chicken. I'll be right back." And they pointed at me and said, "Joe, you want to come up here and fill in for him while I'm gone?" So that's what I did, and I filled in for him, and it was awesome. And then when he came back, I was like, "Hey, man, thank you. This is very cool." And both of them said, No, stay up here. You can stay here and participate in the rest of the show with us." So I got to, and it was awesome, and it was really, really cool. I'm not sure if that was recorded either. At least I'm not sure if it was on video, because I know that there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of issues in that room. That was also in the Primrose B room, so I'm not sure if that's on there. I have to look for that. But it was a lot of fun, and I hope to do that show with them again. I guess this entire episode is already longer than I've wanted it to be. So I'm just going to kind of give an overall kind of retrospective, I guess, on this year's Nerdtacular. And if anybody has any specific questions, just feel free to send me a tweet at JoeyImage. Basically, overall, it's so cool that, people that I know only from online, like I said, I met a lot of these people last year, but people that I only know from the internet, from Twitter, from Facebook, from social media, from Twitch, from Diamond Club, whatever it is, diamondclub.tv, but whatever it is, it's just everyone comes together, and it's like we've known each other for years, and it's like everyone is just best friends, and everyone loves each other, and there's a lot of support in and out of the community for so many things. I can't begin to even explain to you how much support I had going into Nerdtacular the few months before that, with people knowing that I was retiring from wrestling and knowing that was a super, super emotional thing for me. There was a lot of people that sent me well wishes and, sent me, best wishes in the future and blah, blah, stuff like that. And there was a few people that came to my last match, which was June 20th, from this group, this community, the Frog Pants community. And I mean, it was really cool. I mean, Les came from Tennessee, and Caitlin and her husband came from Baltimore, and I mean, Jury came from California. I mean, it was just, just to name a few, it was just awesome. And the support and the love that I felt was just out of this world, tremendous. I mean, I can't even explain it. Again, and it means that much more when it's really just a lot of people that I only know from online or from social media. It means that much more, because these aren't people that have been around me for years, that have basically seen me go through wrestling and are like, all right, now you're hanging it up, and that's cool, and good luck, and blah, blah. this is like real emotion because I don't see them so often, and it's like, hey, like, you know what, you're doing this thing that's cool, and now it has to end, and that sucks. So, you know, I support you, and blah blah blah. And the fact that a lot of these people have never seen me wrestle live, other than those that came to my last match, yet still 17 people bought my DVD. 17 out of the 20 that I brought with me were sold, which is just insane to me, and I can't thank those people enough. I sold them for $15 a piece, and unfortunately I only came home with, like, I think $60 in cash. The rest of it, I spent a lot of money on beer the whole 3 nights, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, that we were there. So, you know, but you know what? I went there with a certain amount of money that I had on me, and I very, very lightly dipped into that. So a lot of the money that I was spending was not mine. It was people buying my DVD. I mean, obviously it was my money, but it wasn't money that I had brought with me and then spent. It was money I didn't have until I got there. So, you know, really, it's like going to a casino and winning $200, and then you play on that $200 for the rest of the time you're there and never really touch your own money. So I didn't really lose anything. Like I said, I came home with like $60 in cash, which is $60 more than I left home with. It just, a lot of it went to, a lot of the rest, well, all of the rest of it went to beer and some food, of course. But again, back to the community thing. There's just so many people there that are so awesome, and you know, it's hard to name people because I know I'm going to forget people, so I don't want to mention any names at all because I don't want people to get offended if I forget them, or I don't want to mention people twice because I forgot I already mentioned them because I'm an idiot. So I'm just going to say every single person there was awesome, and it was so cool to meet everyone. And there are people that I've been talking to on Twitter for years that didn't make it last year, so this was my first time to get to meet them, and it was just so cool. And obviously I remember, like, the people that run the Frog Pants shows and their community: Tom Merritt, again, Veronica Belmont, Randy Jordan, Scott Johnson, Brian Ibbett, Mark Terpster, Jury, Willie Dills, who didn't make it this year, and I was super, super bummed he wasn't there. Him and I are super good buddies. We talk all the time via social media, and we met last year. We hung out so much, and it was really, really cool to hang out with Dills. I absolutely missed him this year. Another just sweetheart of a guy. But yeah, so you know, all those people there, plus every listener, viewer, subscriber, supporter in the community that was there, it was just so cool to be able to hang out. And you know, I grew up in a time where kind of being nerdy or geeky was not the coolest thing in the world. Nowadays, in 2015, it's cool to be a geek, you know? Now, the fact that I can build a computer with my eyes closed, probably, in like an hour is, you know, cool. People look up to that. So, you know, it's cool to be able to go to this event every year and just be you, and everyone is cool with it, and everyone accepts it, and everyone embraces it. And there's no stupid drama, and there's no silly hate, and there's no, you know, haters, and you know, nothing like that. It's just, everyone just wants to have a great time, and everyone wants to support each other and care about each other, and it was just really, really cool. And I said this the first year that I was there, again, which was last year. I got there, and I met Scott, and I met Brian, and I said, hey, I'm probably not going to come back again. I just wanted to come here once and meet everybody, let everyone see my face, you know, introduce myself to people, take pictures, meet a whole bunch of people, but that's it. You know, I've done that, so no need to come back and do it again next year. And then by the end of 2014 Nerdtacular, I was like, hey, so when's next year? I'm buying a ticket. I'm definitely going to be here. So then I went this year, and my girlfriend came with me, and both of us were like, hey, we're going to come next year. So this is pretty much going to be a yearly thing, much like New York Comic Con, which I also go to every year. So, and I will be going to October. I've already got my tickets for this year's. So Nerdtacular is definitely something I will be at every single year that I can swing it, at least, which hopefully will be every year. So I don't want to bore you guys anymore. I don't want to drag this on anymore. It's already 45 minutes. So I will leave you with that. And again, if there's any specific questions anybody has for me about Nerdtacular or about anything, feel free to hit me up on Twitter at JoeyImage. Send me an email at joeyimage@gmail.com. There are 2 Facebooks you can hit up to reach me again. Facebook.com/RealJoeyImage, which is my personal Facebook page, as well as Facebook.com/OfficialJoeyImage, which is like a fan page / like page. And again, keep in mind thatimageguy.com, which is not yet active, but will be very, very soon. Or I should say, it's active. There's no real content on it. I just write wacky, quick 1 sentence at a time thing every couple days. But the actual design of the site itself is being worked on and will be updated ASAP. So I want to thank you guys again for listening to this as well as my previous episode. Sorry if this episode is pretty boring. It really kind of, the demographic for this specific episode is a very niche audience. But I will speak to you soon. Again, thank you for listening. And this is Joey Image signing off.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Can save you from those transmission failure blues.
Avoid those transmission failure blues with Gibraltar's $9.95 tune-up special.
Want a job that pays great, no pressure? Then become a United States Post Office employee. If you've been following the news, you know that right now the Post Office is a little worried about upsetting their employees. That means you'll sail right through your job interview.
Well, that's about all, Mr. Zuni. You got any hobbies?
Cleaning my guns.
And do you have any...
Stop asking so many questions!
Okay, you're hired.
And once you're on the job, it gets even better.
Hey, Zuni, you've been on this coffee break for almost an hour.
Can't you see I'm under a lot of pressure? Leave me alone!
Okay. Take another hour.
Get the job that puts you in charge. Remember, guns don't kill, postal workers do. A message from the NPWRA, the National Postal Workers Rifle Association.